As Christians, we believe that God created the world. But as soon as you talk to a non-believer and say God created the world, there's a question that almost always comes up next. Well, then who created God? In fact, one of the great atheists of the 20th century, known as Bertrand Russell, he wrote a book called Why I Am Not a Christian. He said if the Christian says God made the world, then he has to be prepared to answer the question, who made God? So this question of who made God actually commits what we call a category fallacy. Before you freak out and think category fallacy, you've lost me. Here's an example. What if I asked you, how much does a musical note C weigh? You think, wait a minute, musical notes, which is sound and weight, these are distinct categories and you're confusing them. What does the color pink taste like? Wait a minute, color is something you see, that's a distinct category from taste. Well, asking who made God makes the same category fallacy. Why? We can only consistently ask who made something of things that can be made. So it makes sense to ask who made my shoes, because shoes are the kind of things that can be made. It makes sense to ask who made this camera, because cameras can be made. It makes sense to ask who made this building, because buildings can be made. But God, by definition, is the kind of thing that cannot be made. In fact, if God was made, then he wouldn't be God. So when somebody asks who made God, they're committing the category fallacy, because here's essentially what they're saying. Who made the unmakeable creator of the universe? That's like saying, what caused the uncaused, self-existent creator of the universe? Now here's what's most interesting about this. Up until the 20th century, Christians said God alone is self-existent and eternal. Atheists would say, no, the universe is self-existent and eternal. And scientifically, we couldn't really judge between the two. But in the 20th century, with a number of different scientific findings, now almost all scientists recognize that the universe had a beginning. And if it came into existence, then it certainly can't come from itself. It can't come from nothing. So there must be a cause outside of the universe to bring the universe into existence. And that's who the Bible describes as the everlasting God. So can I explain how there's a self-existent, uncaused creator of the universe? Of course I can, this side of heaven. Maybe even in heaven, we can't fully understand it. But here's what we know. We know that the world around us had a beginning, and that cries out for a self-existent cause outside of the universe, and it seems to best explain the world as we know it and we experience it. Psalms 90 verse 2 says, from before the mountains were brought forth, from before God had made the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. Although we can't fully wrap our minds around this, in Genesis 1, it says that in the beginning, God created. Even the book written by Moses over 3,400 years ago assumed that the universe had a beginning and God alone is eternal. This book was written before any scientific breakthroughs that now seem to be confirming that the universe really did have a beginning. Friends, this is one reason among many that I think we can trust the Bible as God's word and trust the God who stands behind the scriptures. I'm Sean McDowell. Keep asking tough questions, because if you do, I think you'll find the answers.